over the course of the past 2 years in Legacy, we know exactly how quickly it can do that. As we see a very stock list here for Andrew. You got your 4 Emrakul's, you have your 4 Gristlebrand's, 4 Sneak Attacks, 4 Show and Tells, and a bunch of manipulation and counter spells to protect yourself and find the cards you need to be able to go off. Pretty straightforward here. We'll get to the sideboard once we do get there, but we're going to see Sam start off with a swamp as Andrew is going to draw a Lotus Petal for the turn.
Looks like Andrew here has a hand that includes Emrakul, some cantrips, and some mana. I don't know if any, it looks like there's a Show and Tell as well.
And he's just going to pass the turn back, so he does have a, I think there's a Preordain hand that he's choosing not to cast, I believe. So he does have 2 copies of Preordain, 4 Ponders, and 4 Brainstorms. Sam is going to start off here with a Skrkstag High Priest, which is going to draw a Laughter from Patrick. I don't understand why.
If I need to explain it to you, then we're just on way different wavelengths.
Okay. Perfectly reasonable Magic card. It would pump out 5/5 demons at will.
Very good in booster draft.
Yes.
Role player in standard, and now making its Legacy debut.
We're going to see Andrew sacrifice a Misty Rainforest. See what he chooses to search up here, as he's already slid past a couple non-basics, so he is going to search for a basic island.
I think he might have a turn to Show and Tell here.
Well,
maybe in the works.
I'm sure Andrew will put in something completely fair to match Sam's potential for a Doom Traveler.
Perhaps a Sea Snid.
Yes.
Or a Crawlworm. Or a creature of a similar power level that Sam would be able to keep up with.
Yes. Here is he going to make a move here? Is he scared of the Skrkstag High Priest? If you've ever played against Sam in Legacy before, you have to have a pretty good idea that you're probably not playing against a blue deck, probably not playing against a Force of Will deck, so that's a good feeling to have.
It's possible his concern here is actually Liliana the Veil, which Sam does not have, but the opening suggests that that card could be there. He has no Force of Will, so if he just goes Show and Tell in Emrakul, which is what his line currently is, and Sam were to go land Liliana, he'd be out. So I think Andrew might just be looking for a little bit more backup before he goes for it.
And he does find backup in the form of Force of Will off of a Preordain. And he's just going to pass the turn back. So Sam's going to untap. He's going to draw. We'll see if he's found some discard yet. See a Wasteland in Sam's hand.
Multiple Wastelands. Andrew on Island.
Sneak and Show having the ability to play around such a card. Andrew's deck list does have 3 islands and 1 mountain. And we're going to see ourselves a Cartel Aristocrat. And now all we need is the Doom Traveler for the 1/2/3 punch. But without that, Andrew's going to untap. He's going to draw another Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. Here is a Lotus Petal. Andrew's going to pull the trigger here on Show and Tell and let the fireworks begin. Sam placing down something nowhere near as comparable to Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn.
Oh, Sam.
Sam will untap here, take a draw step, draws a Scrubland.
Well, he can actually cast Lingering Souls. I think. Can he sacrifice enough permanents and be able to activate his High Priest? I don't think so. I think that's too many.
A common problem from a Legacy deck. Can I survive an Emrakul hit to pump out a 5/5 demon? That does not win in a fight against Emrakul. That is the question.
So
here is a Wasteland, Cavern of Souls, putting in a Doom Traveler. Sam happy to pass the turn back. Andrew draws another Show and Tell. Thankfully for Sam, you cannot have 2 Emrakuls in play at once.
But one's usually enough.
Here is an Attack Annihilator 6. Going to sacrifice his 4 lands, a Doom Traveler, and a Mother of Runes. Doom Traveler going to get its value.
So he is going to be able to make a demon here. To what end? That is a different question. But.
Quite the question indeed.
Yep. Boom.
So Sam is going to pump out a demon here. Does take the hit. Draws a card. Cabal Therapy is the draw.
A little late to the party.
Get some information here. See a Spell Pierce is going to counter that.
Sam just looking for a little bit of information here before going on to the post-board games.
Here's an attack with all the guys. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points of damage. Gonna put Andrew down to 10. Sam's gonna flashback Cabal Therapy. Andrew says that's fine. Sam's gonna take his information, and probably his ball, and go home. So Andrew Heiser is gonna be up in game here playing Seek and Show against Sam Black and his Black-White Humans deck. We'll move on to the sideboards here. We'll go with the unconventional one first. What do we got, Patrick?
Not a ton of action, I would say. He has a copy of Disenchant, which he can bring in to try to cold Sneak Attack. He has an additional copy of Thalia, which is okay here, and he has an Oblivion Ring. So not a lot, but a couple cards. It's also worth noting Sam has 2 main deck copies of Caracas.
Sure.
So he's not just dead to someone Sneak Attack outing a large creature, but I would venture to guess this is one of Sam's worst matchups.
I'm inclined to agree as we take a look at Andrew's sideboard of 2 Through the Reach, 8 Echoing Truth, 2 Wipe Away, 3 Flusterstorm, 3 Power Blast, 2 Surgical Extractions, 2 Vanillion Clicks. Clearly not coming packing for the Black-White Humans deck. We could see Through the Breach come in over Misdirection, so you have more ways to actually be able to put a big doofus into play. There are some bounce spells here in Wipe Away and Echoing Truth in case he wants that sort of utility. If he's scared of a problem from permanent, maybe a card like a Nevermore or a Splash Smelling Mage, something of that nature. He does have those options, as well as Vanillion Click, which is nice catch-all against a lot of other things. Provides a nice clock as well. So he does have some cards to bring in. Misdirection seems like a very mediocre card in this matchup. Spell Pierce also looking a little bit lower impact given the cards that Andrew saw in Game 1 and given the cards in Sam's deck list.
And the absence of Leyline of Sanctity in Andrew's sideboard, which is a fairly common sideboard card, in Seek and Show is very good for Sam. I played Jund at the Invitational last week. Of course, Black-White Humans and Jund, very different decks, but still shares Thoughtseize, Duress, Cabal Therapy type effects as its way, primary way of disrupting combo decks, and White Leyline just shuts all that down. Yeah. So the fact that Sam's Thoughtseizes and Cabal Therapies are going to be totally fine in this matchup is a big deal for him.
You do have to wonder, Sam knows quite a bit about Legacy, knows what cards people play. If he does sideboard out some discard, in lieu of the fact that Leyline of Sanctity is such a commonly played card from Seek and Show, if he does want to not have those be dead draws in his opening hand or over the course of the game, or maybe if he just has to cross his fingers and hope that Andrew doesn't have Leyline of Sanctity, which of course we know he doesn't.
Those of you also who may remember Sam Black's very memorable top 8 match against Jody Keith a few opens ago.
Yeah, it was the Legacy Open at the Invitational California.
Yes. The Lands versus Walking Dead match where Sam played his Singleton Black Leyline on turn 0, games 2 and 3. Sam, again, has 1 Leyline on the board. So,
well, if it ain't broke.
Yeah. You don't want to draw the second one. You just want to draw the 1, so 1's the number you play.
Yeah. Is that certainly a school of thought?
Yeah.
You see Andrew poised and ready. And after what Sam did the last game, it's hard not to be.
Yes.
Feeling fairly confident.
Sam, I don't think now that he knows the matchup, I don't think he can afford to keep a hand that does nothing on turn 1.
Yeah.
Just not enough time for him to... His hand was very tricky, probably fine against a deck like Rug or Maverick or something more creature-oriented, but of course against Seek and Show, that sort of nonsense is just not going to get it done.
He needs to find a hand that does have Discard or Caracas. A lot of different cards that he can actually find here. Dark Confidant on the play, maybe Stoneforge Mystic as well. Definitely has some options here, but he needs to find a lot better hand than he had for that initial game. Andrew's going to go down to 6 at the very least. Sam is going to keep his 7 cards here.
Yeah, the Sneak and Show deck seems like a mulligan's a fair deal. It gets a lot of hands with lands and spells that it can't keep just because it needs Enabler plus Fatty, and then often needs insurance or protection against an opposing Force of Will or Thoughtseize or what have you. So, of the decks in Legacy, I think Sneak and Show is probably on the high end in terms of decks that mulligan frequently.
Yeah.
Dredge being number 1, and then
Sneak and Show a deck that actually does mulligan quite well though, so that's fairly nice.
No, you don't need a ton of stuff to go off. You don't need a saturation of cards, unlike Storm. So mulligans are a lot less harmful for Sneak and Show, but you do need to be pretty aggressive in mulliganing 7-card hands because if they just dead end, any deck can beat you.
Yes. There are certainly some bad draws available in Sneak and Show, past the fact when you do already have an Emrakul or Gristlebrand in your hand, you don't want to draw repeat copies of those cards in most circumstances. Same can be said for multiple show and tells or sneak attacks. You're just looking for one of each, and as you said, a little bit of protection, some cantrips, and some lands.
Yep.
If you can find that combination, you're going to be good to go, but there are no guarantees that that will happen, which is why you do see the 4 Ponders, the 4 Brainstorms, and the 2 Preordains in Andrew's deck list. 6 cards. You see at least a land there. It looks like there's a Preordain or 2 in his hand. It's a little bit of cantripping as he is mulling his decision over.
Sam just staring.
All right, happy. Marsh Flats to start.
It looks like the hand Andrew kept has a Force of Will, some lands, a Preordain, and a Pierce.
Yeah. Doesn't look like he sideboarded very much here.
But he has. It appears that he has no large creature and no way to cheat a large creature into play. So his hand's missing a lot.
So let's see what Sam's turn 1 of the play is going to be here. Presumably a discard spell, I would like to believe.
It's possible he just wants to lead with his. Even if he had a Thoughtseize, that is Doomed Travel. Or sorry,
try again.
Benevolent Bodyguard.
Yeah.
Which is from Judgment, if I recall my booster drafting of this format correctly. It is a 1-mana 1/1, and you can sacrifice it to give a creature you control protection of the color of your choice until end of turn.
That's correct.
Combo with Dark Confidant, for example.
Same can be said for Stoneforge Mystic.
Yes.
We must protect this house.
Right. Sorry, sometimes I get the names of all of Sam Black's preferred crappy 1-mana white creatures confused.
All right, so an island here off the Misty Rainforest. So we're probably going to see this start with a Preordain.
But even if Sam has Thoughtseize or Cabal Therapy in that hand, I think he's better off starting with trying to get some pressure into play and then Thoughtseizing after the fact. Obviously, you can't wait around all day because there's always a threat of Sneak and Show being able to kill you very quickly. Yeah. But it is incumbent on him to get some amount of pressure on Andrew because given all the time in the world, Andrew can just cantrip and assemble a hand that it's hard for Sam to fight through.
All right, so gets that basic island. And just going to pass the turn back. Sam going to draw and play a swamp. In for 1 here. And our follow-up is Thalia, Guardian of Thraben.
I think we might see a Force of Will here.
This one does feel like it's Force of Will worthy. Really stunts the development of Andrew over the course of the game.
Especially since he has a Spell Pierce in his hand, which is getting to the point of just being dead. Andrew doesn't know this, obviously, but also noteworthy, Sam has a Caracas in his hand, I believe, so he has some protection against Sneak and Show, Show and Tell, especially if it's Emrakul.
Alright, so here is your Force of Will. Thalia is going to get taken care of at the cost of 1 life. Andrew will draw a card. It is a Brainstorm. So he does have some manipulation in the form of Brainstorm and Preordain in his hand. He's going to play a Scalding Tarn.
And it's very powerful here since Andrew's hand is missing a ton of pieces. and has multiple redundant lands.
Yeah. He's going to actually play a, excuse me, he's going to play a Preordain first. I apologize.
I believe that I would have led with Brainstorm there because his hand has so much room to improve that I would want to Brainstorm and then shuffle.
You just want to get to work right away.
Multiple 2-mana lands and definitely enough waste for him to be able to shuffle away. Looks like
his card is Vendilion Click.
Just passes the turn back.
So Sam will take a draw. Cavern of Souls, his draw step. In for 1 we go.
Benevolent Bodyguard just trucking along.
It do what it do.
Doomed Traveler.
Going to double the clock. Cavern of Souls. And a Cartel Aristocrat.
Quadruple the clock.
Yep. The bad news bears here for Sam. Andrew going to draw a card. It's a Gristlebrand, so that's half of the combo.
Again, worth noting, Andrew's still unaware of the presence of Caracas in Sam's hand.
Sam properly slow rolling it. No reason to even get close to exposing
No way you want him to know about that one.
Yeah. Andrew just starts his turn off with an Ancient Tomb. He does just pass the turn back. So Sam's going to untap. He's going to draw. He finds a Wasteland for the turn.
And it looks like we are going to be looking at a click inside the draw step, which has to make Sam fairly happy here, as it requires Andrew to take 2. Sam's hand probably much worse than what his board is at this point. He has Caracas to bounce the click and clear it out if he wants to. Sam has also just drawn Wasteland, so he can actually just Wasteland the Ancient Tomb, sending Andrew back even further. So this click is going to be very good for Sam in a number of respects.
Yeah. So down to 13, Andrew's going to go. Here's your Vanilla Click on the draw step. Sam is going to face up that hand here. You see Doom Traveler, Caracas, and Wasteland.
I think we got to let him keep those.
Yep. Yep. Shrugs his shoulders and says, yeah, you can have that. Falling right into Sam's trap, letting him have another Doom Traveler.
Sam's creatures, in essence, too crappy to block.
Yep. Bang. Doom Traveler.
For those of you just joining us, yes, this is the legacy portion of the Star City Games Open here in Milwaukee.
This is no joke. Wasteland going to take care of a volcanic island. Here comes Sam with the Doom Traveler, with the Benevolent Bodyguard, and with the Cartel Aristocrat. You see Andrew giving a look here, trying to figure out what these ragtag group of characters do.
Benevolent Bodyguard is basically the only creature that he can kind of productively block. It's the only one with a text box he can get off the table.
Yes. Realizing that, he is just going to pass the turn back. Andrew going to draw a card. Force of Will is the draw. See if he's going to pull the trigger on this Brainstorm here, and it looks like he's going to finally. So 3 fresh ones coming here for Andrew in the form of Scalding Tarn, and Show and Tell.
So again, he can get that Emrakul into play, but he is aware of Sam's Caracas, and he doesn't have a lot of life to play around with here. And in fact, getting the Emrakul into play anyway requires him to take damage off the Ancient Tomb.
He has a Gristlebrand, not an Emrakul.
Sorry, the Gristlebrand rather. So he actually can't even activate the Gristlebrand to look for more help. I believe the full scope of Sam's sock full of batteries beatdown has dawned upon Andrew.
Sock full of batteries beatdown? Pillow full of quarters. Yeah. Sam's going to draw a card here. Plays Caracas. Bounce that out of the way. Can't replay that. In for 2, 3, 4, 5 we go. Andrew going to move down to 4. Scalding Tarn's going to put him down to 3. Ancient Tomb looming to put Andrew down to 1 if he needs to use it. So.
Now that Caracas might have been slightly aggressive by Sam, but it's worth noting that even if Andrew is able to sneak attack in Emrakul, which is about the most dangerous thing that can happen from here, Sam can simply sack his 4 lands and 2 Doom Travelers and still attack for a loop.
Yeah.
So, while on the face of it, that looks like a pretty aggressive use of Caracas, Sam, oddly enough, has even Emrakul covered from here.
He has all of the outs covered in this particular game state. And it's all thanks to the Doom Travelers.
Yep.
Sam Black's invitational card. Forget that 2/2 zombie on that token. Can we just put the artwork of Doom Traveler with Sam instead?
And even if Andrew were to sneak attack an Gristlebrand rather, Sam could just sacrifice a Doom Traveler, make a token, and then sacrifice the token.
Yeah, so there's no life that
Yeah.
takes place. Yeah. Again, Doom Traveler.
Got them all covered.
All angles.
Whatever you think works, doesn't work.
And it looks like Andrew may be coming to the same conclusion we are, and he is going to concede this game. So Sam Black does win game number 2 over Andrew Heiser, and we're going to be moving on to a third and final game with Black-White Humans versus Sneak and Show.
Sam giving him a little smile there.
Got you right where I want you, Heiser.
So I mean, if I was Andrew, I would probably not want to have Vendilion Click in the deck, just because basically Sam's disruption is all super cheap. It's not, he's not sitting on Force of Wills and counter spells. He's just playing Thoughtseizes and Therapies and casting his creatures.
Not only that, what is he blocking with Vendilion Click? He's able to trade with anything that's productive. We saw in that previous game that, no, that's just not going to happen. And when there's Mother of Runes and Benevolent Bodyguard in your opponent's deck, you're never going to get a profitable trade.
Sam's creatures simply too bad to block.
Yes, yes. Rarely do you see that, but that is that's just accurate for this for this matchup. They're simply too poor to trade with. And if Sam deems a trade to be a good one, he can stop them with Mother of Runes and Benevolent Bodyguard.
And I'm pretty sure that Sam's deck actually shares some number of characteristics with his Aristocrat deck in Standard. Primarily, all those tricks, all the admittedly pretty crappy creatures he's playing, actually probably good against another deck that's just trying to attack you on the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, these cards are all very good at blocking. So if the game's about attacking and blocking, these creatures he's playing, particularly Mother of Runes and the High Priest, all very powerful.
Yep.
Of course, against a dishonest deck like Sneak and Show, these are just bad bodies.
Yep.
Way worse than Savannah Lions and Elite Vanguards or whatever. And so Sam's leaning very heavily on his Thalias and his discards to provide enough disruption.
So we see both players are happy with their configurations. They'll be shuffling up for game number 3 here. And Andrew Heiser will be on the play. Sam needs to make sure again that he does have some sort of discard or maybe a Caracas in his hand to make sure that nothing too crazy happens here.
So I see us through the breach.
I see an unhappy player taking a mulligan to 6. Let's see how Sam feels.
I think Sam is keeping.
Wide range of hands that he can keep, so.
Yeah. For those of you at home curious about Sam's mana base, pretty straightforward. 4 Wasteland, 4 Scrubland, 4 Cavern, 4 Marsh Flats, 2 Caracas, 2 Swamp, 1 Plains.
Easy does it.
Yeah. Nothing fancy.
I was hoping for something spicy like maybe an Orzhov Basilica.
The Vault of the Archangel.
Yeah. Orzhov Church of Deals.
Yep.
For the slow grind. Mm-hmm. As I do say, Patrick, it is the slow knife that cuts the deepest.
Yes. Sam just not satisfied, actually fittingly with his Orzhov pin on actually, too. Just can't even be satisfied. Maybe Grave Crawler is just too powerful of a card.
Yeah, way too good.
It's way too
good.
Well known to be powerful.
Yeah. See, Andrew doesn't look incredibly thrilled about this hand right now as well.
I mean, I'm sure, obviously Sam has definitely his reasons for the ways his decks are constructed and the types of things he likes to do. But it is possible he's reached a point of combined success as a deck builder and player that he can no longer enjoy himself simply playing Rug Delver and doing okay in the tournament.
Yeah.
That's just not going to lead to a good afternoon.
He's got to do it his way.
Yes.
Which is something I've always admired about him. So let's see if he can make the magic happen. One more game in this match, as Andrew is going to sacrifice the Scalding Tarn, search out a land here, and we'll see what his turn 1 is going to be.
Pretty strong indicator that this is going to be Preordain or Ponder.
See a sneak attack.
It looks like he has a one-lander with show and tell, sneak attack, and cantrips. It looks like about what his hand is.
Draft number 4. Your event is also ready.
Ponder, Brainstorm, show and tell, 2 sneak attacks is Andrew Heiser's hand. And after Sam is done shuffling here, we'll probably see his turn begin with a Ponder to help smooth out his draw a little bit. Hit 1.
So he needs to find mana and creatures to work with here.
Scalding Tarn, Force of Will, and Volcanic Island are the cards from Ponder.
I think he can afford to keep this because it does provide him some mana, and he does have a Brainstorm in hand plus a Tarn on the top, so he can shuffle away the Force of Will if he doesn't want it by the time he gets to that point.
Yeah.
But since he's, struggling to make land drops, I have to feel like he's going to want to keep those 3, and he does.
So he sets the Force of Will on top. That goes to his hand. That goes to his hand. And he passes the turn back. So in case he feels the need to counter something on turn 1, as you do see, Sam's going to sacrifice a March Flash and go down to 19. He does have the option to do that.
So Andrew with a pretty weak holding right now and something very susceptible to discard. Cabal Therapy here could be especially bad.
Things could get ugly. They could get ugly fast. So let's see if Sam's going to start out with a powerful discard spell or a Benevolent Bodyguard. Discard!
Very powerful opening. I think we're going to be just... If Andrew does not Force of Will this, I assume we're just taking Brainstorm here and stranding him with that hand. Our only other real option here, if you're Andrew, is to Force of Will pitching Show and Tell.
Yeah. So Sam sees the same hand that you guys do at home with Force of Will. Show and Tell, 2 sneak attacks and a Brainstorm. We'll see what way Sam wants to go out playing this game here. If he does want to take a Brainstorm and cut Andrew's outs, and his draw steps down a little bit. If he does want to take a Show and Tell to make it so that he can't take an oops, I win approach. And he is going to go with the Brainstorm just to slow down Andrew's development quite a bit. If you're Sam, you do have to keep one thing in mind. Andrew did keep with his Ponder, so it leads me to believe that there are probably at least 1 land on top of my deck. On top of his deck, excuse me. If you're Sam thinking about what Andrew could be possibly drawing.
Yeah, Sam's going to feel pretty comfortable because Andrew is basically missing 2 critical components at this point, both mana and a large creature to sneak attack into play.
So now we're going to see a Cabal Therapy.
Oh boy.
And this one probably has to be countered. But it's dangerous too because Sam does have so many 1-drops. So
if he does, Doom Traveler in hand for the flashback.
Yeah, so if he does go Force of Will or move Show and Tell, then Sam will just go Doom Traveler, flashback, take your sneak attacks, and you don't have a hand. And so we do have a quick update for you guys. Huey Jensen does win 2-1 on his feature match. He playing Sneak and Show this round, so...
He and Owen Turn while playing Sneak and Show, splashing Thoughtseize.
Yes. See Andrew really giving this a lot of thought.
Yeah, basically right now it's... If Andrew thinks that Sam has a 1-drop to follow up with, it's... He should not Force a Will, and if Sam does have a 1-drop to follow up with, or doesn't have one to follow up with, he would want to Force a Will.
Yeah. So Sam takes Show and Tell, which makes it so that Andrew cannot Force Will. He does not have another blue card, and if he does have Doom Traveler for the full blowout, he will not only take care of those sneak attacks, but he will be left with, excuse me, Patrick, a 1/1 Spirit token.
Yeah, to start the beatdowns. And this is exactly the type of opening that Sam really wants to have, especially on the draw. Yeah. A lot of hand disruption. And now Andrew's going to be short multiple components now.
Yes. And with fewer of them to draw to as well. And there's Doom Traveler. There's Cabal Therapy. Here comes the Spirit. There go those sneak attacks. And you want to talk about value?
This is value.
Let's talk about Cabal Ritual Flashback on Doom Traveler.
What a deal. What a deal. Andrew not interested in drawing a land that turn that he knows about from the brainstorm, so
he needs action.
Shuffling his deck. Sam with a Spirit token from Doom Traveler in play, a couple scrub lands. And Andrew in a ton of trouble.
So Andrew, after Sam does finish shuffling the deck here, gonna take a draw, left with just a Force of Will in hand. What are we gonna add to that? A Show and Tell, okay. That's a start.
It's one of the components he needs.
Yeah. It's a start. Sam does draw a Cavern of Souls.
Cavern of Souls is pretty good going forward here because he's just casting nothing but creatures, so Andrew's Force of Will.
Now here's an Aethersworn Canonist from
there
Sam.
Are 3 copies of that in his sideboard.
Andrew going to draw a card.
A small amount of utility against Sneak and Show, but not at its best here.
Draws a Ponder.
I would rather have a Aethersworn Canonist in my deck than a High Priest. So.
Yes. So here is a Ponder. 1, 2, and 3. Lotus Petal among those cards. You have Brainstorm as well.
Yeah.
Not sure what the first card is.
Hard to imagine something like that is worth shuffling at this point since, again, Andrew is missing every component. So a Brainstorm's worth a lot in terms of him trying to develop a hand. We can't see the third card. Obviously that factors in here, but it would be hard to imagine shuffling away a Brainstorm at this stage of the game. But Andrew's going to go back.
Gonna go back to the well. Hope for a little one-time magic. So let's see what the old top deck Ponder gonna reveal here. As he does have a sneak, excuse me, he does have a Show and Tell and a Force of Will in his hand. So he's probably just looking for a land this turn, and then maybe a top deck say a Big Idiot the next turn.
Yeah, no, he definitely has running draws, and again, Sam's not really applying that much pressure right now, so Andrew has time. That's part of the reason I was surprised to see the Brainstorm go away, because you're not under immediate pressure to find what you're looking for. Gives a little pounding of the deck, finds a Force of Will.
Well, if he was pounding the deck for an expensive card, he drew one. We don't know what he was hoping for. Sam is going to come across here for 3. To knock Andrew down to 14. Cavern of Souls, going to cast the Mother of Runes, Scrubland, and pass the turn back. Andrew going to untap, he's going to draw. This is an island. He's going to put that into play.
So, a big creature here is a huge draw.
Sam draws a card, comes across for 4, puts Andrew down to 10. You see Sam with a Wasteland. It looks like a Surgical Extraction in a swamp. Draw step, Surgical Extraction, likely targeting Show and Tell.
I would imagine, yeah, Show and Tell would be.
Here's a Force of Will. There goes a blue card. So this is certainly something that's worth fighting over. We're going to knock Andrew down to 9.
Yep.
Saw that he drew an Ancient Tomb for the turn.
Andrew still withdraws.
It's not impossible. Passes the turn back.
Any Thoughtseize or Cabal Therapy is a disaster here, but everything else is survivable.
Mother Runes is A-okay. Knocks Andrew down to 2, 3, 4. Goes down to 5. Mother Runes does make it so that this is
We're facing lethal.
Yeah, this is a lethal clock. Andrew draws a card. It is City of Traders.
Yeah.
So with a hand of City of Traders, Show and Tell, and Ancient Tomb, it is not going to be enough to get it done. And it looks like Sam Black is going to win this match against Andrew Heiser, playing Sneak and Show with the Black-White Humans, Patrick. In 3 games, as there's the hand, and that means that Sam Black is a victor. 2 games to 1 here. Black-White Humans, a little homebrew. Moving on.
Probably not Sam's ideal matchup, but a combination of Thought Seizes and Cabal Therapies and pressure in quotes was enough enough for Sam to take the third game there. Had to sweat a couple draws there from Andrew. Definitely was capable of pulling that game out if he found a large creature or maybe a